Okay, so I'd just like to say thank you so much to everybody who's registered for today, and for those of you who have shown up, and for those of you who are watching on the replay. As always, I'm your host, Dawn Bates, a writer, but let's just say first, reader, writer, author coach, and boutique publisher. Now, someone asked me recently, what's an author coach and how is it different to a writing coach and a book coach? An author coach looks at the whole holistic side of being an author. So that looks at your writing, that looks at your energy, that looks at your mission, your vision, your purpose. That looks at the business that you're building around being an author, the contracts, how you're creating all your profiles, your branding. It's the whole business model of being a coach, sorry, of being an author. I look at the way in which you are making things mean. There's a lot of narrative coaching and a lot of narrative inquiry into it. There's a lot of leadership coaching. So there's bringing together 30 years of entrepreneurship and coaching and being a reader and a writer all together. And I share everything that I've learned with you. And a boutique publisher, for those of you who don't know, is somebody who specializes in a specific genre, or a specific subject area, such as social impact or social justice. It might be erotica, it might be science fiction, it might be business, might be spiritual, and we basically either help you. Some people might also call us hybrid publishers, because we either help you publish your book under your own brand, and if it suits our brand, then we publish you under our brand, if that's what you're looking for. So just to clarify there for you, those of you who are watching, the author coach and the boutique publisher terms. So week 3, this is all about how we're going to be researching the sensitive subjects, and looking at the ethical side of it and how we approach that. Now, I'm not expecting all of you to do some of the types of research I've done, which involves sailing around the world and going into some of the most dangerous places on the planet, just to get a story. I'm not expecting some of you to go and live in the jungle, although it's such an experience. Incredible experience, and you learn to shower with scorpions on a daily basis, if that's something that you've never done before. But one of the things we are going to focus on is the actual process, so that we're not actually traumatizing ourselves or the people who are helping us with the research, and then eventually our readers. So we want to make sure that we're doing this in the most ethical, most respectful way possible, and so that we're not either re-traumatizing or traumatizing ourselves or anybody else. So let's get cracking. And we're also going to look at how we can protect everybody as well, in the way that when we're looking at protecting the confidentialities. So we're going to get going now. So step 1. One of the first things I always say to some of my clients, and thank you to Joanne who's just joined us, is one, when you're mapping out your research and how you're going to plan doing it, always notice what comes up for you. Now, whether that is something that comes up for you in an intellectual way, an emotional way, or an energetic way, notice where and what is coming up, because it might be that there's some element of fear. Write that fear down and then reframe it. So write it all down, and you'll have seen this in the previous videos in lots of different ways. And I do go over some of the same information, but in very different ways, because it is all relevant. Now, when I say notice what comes up for you, it might be one of those, oh my God, that'd just be a bloody great thing to write about. Is it distracting you? Is it one of those things that is just going to take you off topic? Or is it something that's actually going to deepen the things that you're writing about? Look at the emotions that are coming up, because this is where we're looking at whether we're going to be traumatizing ourselves, our sources, or our readers, or maybe even the editors and proofreaders and the people that are going through typesetting. Because again, it's not just about us, it's about the people that are helping us bring this book together. It might be that when the typesetter, who's just doing, going around doing fabulous pages inside books, and then they happen to read something, how is that going to land with them? We've got to think, we have such a responsibility as writers. And I've always said with freedom comes responsibility. So we might have the freedom in many ways to write about, but we have got to make sure that we're being responsible for everybody on the journey. And that's a huge pressure, and it's one that some people don't take seriously enough, and then there are some of us who probably take it a bit too seriously. Wherever you fit in that camp is all well and good. It is what it is, and again, awareness is key. So when, like I said, when you're mapping it out, I mean, I like to map it out on a big wall and put, mind maps and, post-it notes and characters. When I say characters, because I write non-fictions, I mean like individuals, or case studies, or it might actually be a solution. So when I say characters, it could be any of those aspects. But think about the emotions that are being stored in your body, because anybody who has read or knows about trauma will know that the body keeps score, as Bessel van der Kolk so beautifully outlined, and Gabar Mate. When the body says no. And it's like when we have a resistance, whether that is a physical resistance, whether that is a mental block, whether that is we just can't cry about something. Those of you who have seen The Holiday know what I mean. So again, it's like, look at what comes up for you, and is the thing that's showing up allowing you to gain more clarity, or is it just confusing everything? Are they ideas for this book, additional chapters? Can they be used as marketing material? Or is it going to be a second book? Or is it going to be a series of articles that you can write about to promote the book? So again, none of the ideas are bad ideas. And it might be that you think, okay, well, this is really great content, but if I write about that, that's just, it doesn't fit anywhere in the book. So maybe use it as an article to promote the content or to promote you. So never, I mean, I've deleted 10, 30 and 50,000 words. But again, it's like making sure that what is working for you, or what is actually available to you, remains available, because our bodies are responding. These ideas are coming for a reason. Pay attention to it, acknowledge it, thank it, and then assign it. The other thing is, when you get these ideas and you're looking at these emotions and the things that are coming up for you, is it pointing you to a new person? Is it asking you to go deeper with your sources? Because it might be that, so for example, when I was researching things in Nicaragua, I met a lady in a coffee shop completely randomly, but obviously nothing is random. And what actually happened was, she was the person who was there to introduce me to somebody else on a much deeper level into the things that I was researching. When I was in Australia, the same kind of thing happened. I met a guy in a marina. We got talking. He goes, "You need to meet this person." And then, so again, it's like, what are these things that are coming up for you? Who is it introducing you to? Where are you going to find these sources? Because a lot of the time when we're researching, it might be that we're looking at university white papers. It might be that we're looking in newspapers. We're probably looking at documentaries, talking to investigative reporters. It might be that we're talking to academics and professors. It could just be we're talking to the person next door. You might be speaking with somebody within an organization, a therapist, or you might be speaking to students. Wherever these ideas or these information and the research is coming from, what is it that comes up for you and for them when they're sharing? Because some people think that when you go off on a tangent, or you get a story within a story, that this is a waste of time. It absolutely isn't. Follow that tangent, or as Alice says, follow the rabbit. Go down that rabbit hole, because that's sometimes where you need to go in order to get to the real story. And if you keep coming up against a block in the things that you're writing about currently, there's a reason for that. Ask yourself, what is it that I'm not seeing? What is it I'm not receiving? What am I open to receiving? What am I open to learning? What am I willing to let go of? And what am I willing to release? And again, pay attention to the words that we're using there, because again, words are our power. We're painting pictures and emotions and stories and taking people on a journey by words. We need to make sure that we get them accurate. Are you going to need to take a trip overseas? Like I said, my trip around the world started in Scotland with something happening that led me to learning about a piece of research, which then led on to a series of books, which then I was like, okay, I need to go and research this around the world. And I didn't tell a lot of people about what was forming in my head because, as one of a friend of mine so brilliantly put it, she goes, sometimes when you share your vision and your goals and your ideas, it's like someone's putting a dirty hand inside your tummy when you're pregnant and they're messing up the mojo of your baby. And I was like, oh my God. Because the thing is, when you start sharing your ideas whilst they're still forming, other people can latch onto them and might suggest something. It's why I say create before you consume. Now, create something, whether that's writing or intentions for the day. It doesn't even have to be journaling. As long as you create a pure intention for your day, or before you start something, create. Do not take something in from the outside world until you've created something from within you. And again, when you're looking at all of this research and you're speaking to all of these people, have you mapped out where they are going to take you and the kind of people they might be able to introduce you to, and how are you going to track the data or the information that they give you? How are you going to test it for durability, or how are you going to reference it? Because the thing is, it might be that, let's say, I know Anita comes up with something that shares some information with me, and then which leads me to Barbara. I'm doing the ABC here, just in case you're wondering where I'm getting these names from. And then Barbara says something which actually contradicts everything that Anita has told me. So now what I need to do is I need to find the truth and their similarities between them. And when we look at the similarities and the overlaps, what we're actually doing is actually finding where that common ground, and that's actually where that research can take us. And again, we've got to be able to test it. So we might then want to go and speak with Claire. Claire is actually going to make everything wrap up really, really beautifully. And then we're going to find Zoe right at the other end of it, 26 people later, or 23, depending on where you're counting from. And all of those steps, you need to be able to map it out and track it and test it and rigorously test it. You need to absolutely do your research. And like I said, it could come from, excuse me, 1 second, I'm going to cough. You're probably going to get it from, like I said, theses, white papers, articles, podcasts, books in libraries. But be very careful that when you are researching, that you're not just researching stuff that was research from research and research from research. Go and get right now, right here, first-hand experience of researching. And if that takes you overseas, then go and get it. And you might actually be able to get some funding for it, because remember, what we're actually doing is we might be able to get grants for the work that you're doing. You might be able to go to the Literary Council, depending on which country you're in. There might be literary grants, there might be research grants, there might be tax opportunities, you might be able to get a loan. But if that's where your research is taking you, then go. Don't just rely on stuff that other people are saying. Because one of the things when you're doing that is that you've got to then, if you're citing that particular person, and you can cite them, have they given you permission? Have you got a release form? Have you got an NDA signed? Have you got something that's written? It might not be as formal as an NDA that protects them. It might be something along the lines of, you've got a contract in place that makes sure that you will never disclose who they are. And if you do, then there are going to be consequences of that. It's very similar to an NDA. Again, without going down that legal rabbit hole right now, but making sure that when you're collecting their evidence, or when you're researching or you're interviewing them, have you made sure that they are exactly who they say they are? Have you looked at identification? Is it too sensitive, or is it too dangerous for you to ask for identification? Are they willing to meet you in person? Is it going to be an anonymous interview? How are you going to prove that they are who they say they are, and that they have got the knowledge or the expertise that you're looking for? We can you do something if you're sharing interviews, if you're doing interviews with people, how are you recording it and how are you storing that information once you've collected it? Because again, when you're interviewing people, yes, you might have it stored on your hard drive, but is it backed up on, say, Dropbox or OneDrive? Have you got VPNs and have you got firewalls, etc.? Because you've got to make sure that if anything does happen once you've shared this information, in the best way possible, in the most legal way possible, if when that goes public and you do decide to keep that in the final manuscript, can that person come back and say, well, actually, I didn't give you permission to use that, but you can go, well, I didn't use the information that you shared. This piece of information comes from this person or from this source. Can you back it up? And how are you making sure that everything is mapped out and recorded? And it sounds like a lot of work, and it is. But preparing a court case and living through a court case and dealing with the financial impact of that could actually be a lot more work for you in the long run. So it's always best to actually keep a log of who you're speaking to, where it led you, what you got, create Dropbox or OneDrive files or any other file storage system and log it all on Excel spreadsheets. And you might want to do it chapter by chapter. You might want to do it subject by subject or country or sector. So making sure that you've got it, and also any ID or proof that the person that you're speaking to is the right person or is who they say they are. Make sure you map that out as well. Now, I've mentioned here undercover ops, hiding, pretending, manipulating, or lying, because when I was traveling around the world, there were certain things that people were like, oh my God, your hair changes color all the time. I'm like, yeah, because people will probably be looking for a redhead, or they will be looking for a blonde, or they'll be looking for a brunette, and it was long and it was short. And then when I shared things on social media, when I was in one country, I was actually in another country, I would just save my photos and post that because I could not, especially if I was coming up to a border crossing, I needed to know that I could cross that border without any hassle. So if I was sharing certain things for the lead up for the book, and I would say, I don't know, in Chile, I was saying that I was still in Tenerife. Just another level of protection. Some people might say that it's lying, but again, I didn't see it as lying or deceiving people. It was more, okay, I need to protect myself. I've got 2 boys that are wanting their mum to come home, and that picture was taken in that place, and I was there. I'm just a little bit further ahead, and plus, it's always nice to have a bit of privacy where you are. But again, this is what I'm saying about look at the bigger picture, because if you are talking about, say, for example, let's say we're talking about trauma, something that's happened in your family or in your own life, whether that is a car accident, whether that is grief, loss of a loved one, or whether that is some kind of violence or sexual assault. Some of the things that you need to do for your own self-preservation or the preservation of the person you're writing about is to not divulge everything. It's not you lying, it's not you manipulating a situation, it's just you being respectful of whatever it is that somebody is sharing with you. Now, a lot of this might seem like common sense to a lot of us, but again, I don't know where everybody is at that's watching this video, and I want to make sure that we're covering all bases. Again, if I'm working with somebody on a one-to-one, I know exactly where they're at, I know where we're going. So this is as trying to make sure I'm fitting everybody in here. And again, I've said here, make copies, backups. If you've got statements of violence, so you've got, you might have WhatsApp messages, call logs, you might have train tickets, all of these things are actually really vital for you to be able to piece together a jigsaw, because it might be that you're interviewing someone and you're like, you know what, that timeline doesn't quite work. And then what you can do is you can again map that out and figure out where the holes are, because it might not be that that person is hiding or lying, or they might not have access to that information. And then you've got to ask yourself, if I probe that little bit deeper, if I ask this question, am I going to trigger them and have them think that I don't believe them? Or is it going to be a step too far? You've really got to pay attention to the body language. You've got to pay attention to the energy signature. You've got to be able to maybe have somebody there with you, a mediator or a therapist with you, or have them have their therapist with you. Again, all of these things really do show the person who is your source that it's not that you're disbelieving who they are. They might actually be in witness protection. It might be that they've had to change their name. It might be that they are hiding from someone, or there is a restraining order. And all of these things you really need to be paying attention to. And then obviously fact checking and making sure that the timeline is right. Now, for those of us who have been spiked or have had trauma where we've lost memories, you might not want to suggest someone goes down hypnotherapy. You might not want to suggest that they have ayahuasca, because it might not be what it is that they're seeking. And at the end of the day, if your brain is protecting you from something, or their brain is protecting them from information, we might want to trust that. So again, checking in with the body. Again, is their brain allowing them to remember things? Is their body showing, is their posture correct? Is the way in which they flit about with ideas? Are they like me? I'm a butterfly brain. There's so much going on inside this brain. You know, I also am in the menopause, so I have a bit of a menopause brain as well. So that's always good. You might find my phone in the fridge, but hey, it's not overheating. But again, unlike us in the menopause, but again, what we need to be doing is checking in with our body, asking them to check in with them. How are you feeling? You know, you're talking to them. They're doing you a huge service by helping you to write your book and to gather evidence. So it's always a really, really respectful way of saying, you know, can I just check that you're okay to continue with this? Do you need tea? Is it, you know, when you're going into different customs, is it and to different cultures around the world, are you are you taking them a gift? Is that to what to be expected? So, for example, when you go to Lebanon, do not invite or do not give tea to somebody when they arrive, because that's almost like saying you want them to leave, as I found out. I'm English, we drink tea all the time. So again, making sure you understand the person's cultural customs. Is it that, you know, you're dealing with somebody from the Far East, that, you know, when they have a meeting with someone, there are gift exchanges? And is that just in a particular area of that country? Is it that you do not show your feet? Like, you know, you don't cross your feet over, you don't want to hand wear red. You don't want to be sharing food from the same plate, especially if it's somebody who's younger than you, because that might be seeing that you're stealing their energy or their future. Again, make sure you understand the cultural aspects of it and write all of these ideas down while you're doing it, because when you are writing about these people or their experience or about yourself, you need to be able to make sure that, one, they can trust you, because when you do that, they're more likely to, like I said, when they trust you, they're more likely to open up, but they're also more likely to tell you where they're feeling any restrictions or any nervousness, or you're able to pick it up in your own body as well as theirs. And our bodies do tell us a lot. And when people are like, some people have said to me, but you never look at the screen. It's like, because of the blue, the screen rays, I've got blue tints on my glasses, and I hardly ever look at the screen because I spend a lot of time looking at it while I'm writing. And sometimes people might find that quite suspicious, but when they understand why you do certain things or why you share in a different way, like friends of mine have said to me, like, can you talk without moving your hands? Probably not. So again, it's understanding, are these hand gestures that I'm making, are they offensive to somebody? Are they doing something? For example, when I lived in Egypt and I taught, when I first came across and I was, they just tutted at me. But the kids were actually saying no, and now I do, like, because it's no. To me, it's no, but to somebody here in England, it's I'm trotting at them, but I'm not. Again, it's about making sure, what is our body doing? How is it responding? And what's actually, once we've got this information, we've got to check in, and say, okay, if I was to share this now, because this is one of the key questions. If we were to share this with the public now, where do you feel it? How do you feel? Do you feel anxious that you have just given me this story, or that you've just written it? Are you feeling anxious that other people are going to learn what you've just been through? Are there name changes that needs to happen? How is their life or your life going to change? And this involves the person who is giving you the information. It involves the readers. How is their life going to change once they've read what you've written? How is your family going to feel being associated with somebody who's written about this subject, or that's exposed this corruption, or that has started to talk about subjects that your family have never spoken about? Is it that deep, dark, dirty secret? And is it a secret that is filled with shame, or is it a secret that's really quite exciting? Again, how are you portraying that? Is it going to cost you an investor in your business? There have been one or two people that have said to me that they would love to work with me, but unfortunately, because of some of the other subjects that I've written about and that I help other people write about, they don't want, their investors and their board of directors do not want this person to work with me, because then their book would be associated with me, and so it's not actually feasible for them. Now, I could be really offended, but I choose to go, okay, well, you've got to honor what it is that you're doing. Is your investment, and are these the right investors for you? Because if you really want to do this and you really want to publish, and with someone like me or somebody else, um, do you want to change your name? But if these people are not allowing you to be who you truly wish to be, and to speak and write about the things you really truly want to do, speak and write about, are they the right people for you to have in your life, regardless of how much money and investment they're giving you? Again, so look at how your life is going to change, and how is the life of all of your sources and your readers going to change. Hopefully, it's going to be for the better, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that there's turning the pain into power, making sure that we're alchemizing negatives into positives. And I've written at the top here, deadlines or flatlines, because we could be so busy working towards a deadline that we actually end up killing ourselves. And I don't just mean that in a fatal way. I mean, we actually end up killing our passion. We end up killing that part of ourselves that is the one thing that has been igniting our burning passion and desire to write what it is that we've been wanting to write. Now, again, it's time to check in with the body. And if you are not taking care of your health, and you're not listening to your body, and you're not listening to your energy levels, and you are just so in that moment, and you've shut off for everybody, that's not a great space to be. Trust me, I've been there. I know these things. And it can be quite challenging coming back, and re-entering the world after you've shut yourself away for such a long time to write something. And you need help. I have therapist friends and people that help me through this, and I have my coaches, just to make sure I've got that particular support network. And again, are you going into places, like I mentioned at the top of this, are you going into some dangerous places to get this research? Now, I've been in, like I said, I've been in some of the most dangerous places on the planet. Apparently, they were the most dangerous places on the planet. But And I guess they were. They've been voted that for a reason. Um, but the thing is, when you go into these places, if you are there, so for example, there was one area of Costa Rica that I was in, a place called La Carpio. It's deemed to be very dangerous. But what I saw there were very beautiful people. These were refugees. These were people who had lost everything, and they were rebuilding their life. They'd been through so much trauma. And what other people saw as dangerous, I saw something completely different. I saw something very, very beautiful going on there. And again, when we're looking at reframing and telling somebody else's story, it's our perspective. And this is why I say go to the places. Don't just rely on somebody else's research, because you're looking at the research through somebody else's bias. It's absolutely essential that you get your research as much as possible firsthand. And if you see beauty in places like Carpio, I did not feel threatened whatsoever. I didn't feel like I was looking over my shoulder. I didn't feel anxious at all. Everybody was very friendly. It was the beauty and the humanity in that place was very heartwarming and very emotional. But again, it's making sure that with our freedom to go to those places and freedom to write, that we have that responsibility to actually share the beauty of these dangerous places. The other thing that you might want to look at is when you're going and you're working these deadlines and you're working to targets, and and you're studying and reading and writing all day and you're just all hunched over, get a massage. Get a massage in your neck and your shoulders and your hands and your forearms. And because your hands are like this, typing all day, might be a good idea to bend your hands backwards like this on a regular basis, as well as do prayer hands on a whole other level and twist them out when you're on the yoga mat. But consider, does the librarian and the shopkeeper or the cafe owner, do they know how you take your tea and what your routine is? Because if you're writing something that is quite controversial, and you're exposing something, if they know what your routine is, do the people who you are exposing, do they know that you're planning on doing this? Has word got to them, and do they know what is going on? When I lived in Egypt, I was followed by the secret police. I was just like, my car keeps following me. Oh, okay. Oh, that's why are they doing that? And then I was like, oh, they're Baltagi, which are police paid thugs. And they are the secret police, one and the same thing, pretty much. And I actually wrote down my itinerary. Honestly, I hear myself say these things. I'm like, what the hell did I do that for? I wrote down my itinerary and went over to them, said, here you go, here's my itinerary for the next week, just in case you lose me. You're supposed to be the secret police, and yet here you are. I know that you're the secret police. Yes, anyway, I had my blog taken down. People were following me. People knew what I was up to. Again, make sure that you're safe. Make sure that you put protection in place. People knew about what had happened. I wrote about it. I've just been followed by the secret police. I've given them, and again, show up when I was traveling. But don't rely on strangers on social media a lot of the time, because I realized that when I was traveling, when I deleted my Facebook and my Instagram profile, even though people knew I was a solo female traveling the world by myself, I thought that by showing up every day on Facebook was keeping me safe. It wasn't. People really didn't care. When I disappeared and I deleted my accounts, I had 3 or 4 people contact me. I was like, ouch, that hurt. So even though I thought I was keeping myself safe, when I came off and no one contacted me, like, I've got a website, they could have contacted me through my contact form, but no one, like I said, 3 or 4 people contacted me and they had my phone number. So again, how are you going to protect yourself from harm and from burnout? And are you turning that pain into power? Like I was just saying about who are you exposing, how are you storing your data? Do you have a virtual private network? Because one of the things that you'll find is if you're tracking information and you're researching, when you've got a VPN and you change location, the information you receive, depending on the government agendas and the way in which newspapers report, whether they're state-owned or whether they're privately owned, or whether, so for example, 96% of the world's media owned by Zionists. So you're not really going to get anything that goes against Zionism or against Israelis or the Jews. So you're going to see a lot of blur and a lot of the similarities. You've got to know this, and it's not a judgment, it's not it's just stating a fact there. And so you've got to find your news sources from somewhere else, but you've got to be prepared when you're going through all of this. um, you've got to be prepared for what you might find. And also with your VPNs, to use an analogy, Netflix, if you change your VPN from, say, I don't know, London to the States, you're going to see a very different series of films and shows. When you change it to Australia, you're going to see something completely different. Your VPNs actually do that for your research. Now, during a lot of my investigations, I've changed my VPN and I've put in exactly the same question, and I've got very different results. Again, if you're seeking medical information, you're going to get a very different response if your VPN says you're in Sweden to being in the States. Very different again if you're in Australia or if you're in like South Africa. So again, change your VPN. It's a very good thing to do, because you're going to see how very different a lot of the stories are, but also you're going to see how possibly brainwashed we've become. I would say we actually are, by the mainstream media. If you use the mainstream media, I use a lot of non-mainstream media, and then I do that thing where I said about Anita, Beverly, Barbara, meeting in the middle, finding out that common ground. Again, I mentioned about me cutting my hair, dyeing it different colors, me going deep, disappearing into different parts of the world, but always making sure that I've got emergency contacts. Even now, when I get into an Uber, I have got the password set up, and when every Uber trip I have, I can then send that to somebody. I've got 2 people on my Uber account where I can actually send them, okay, I'm in this Uber, this is where I'm going, this is how long I should take to get there. I've even got it signed up so that, set up so that if the driver deviates from the path, or the route set, then Uber will contact me directly, whether that's by a phone call or whether that's by messaging. So again, have you got those things in place? Have you got your last will and testament, your affairs in order? Now, this might seem quite drastic, but again, depending on what it is that you're writing about, if you are writing about a critical illness, if you are writing about corporate espionage, or you're writing about systemic abuse and corruption, then these are things you're really going to need to think about, and making sure that when you are processing the information, that you are not in an angry state. Now, yes, be angry at government and corporate corruption. Be angry that these things are happening in the world, but don't write from that space, because you're going to be putting in an energy, and maybe having a viewpoint that's actually not an unbiased one. You've got to be able to look at things from a very unbiased point of view. And when you're interviewing people, make sure that you're not just interviewing people that's going to confirm your narrative. It's like I say to people who follow a religion, if you are not learning about other religions and you're only learning about your own, and you're not learning about the history, the economics, and the social constructs of the time when those religions were revealed, then are you actually um, do you actually understand the religion in its entirety? If you cannot have your faith and your belief system and your ideas challenged, then you're not going to be writing a book without bias. You're not going to be doing research properly. You've got to have every idea that you're writing about challenged. It leads to great literature with a capital L. And again, looking at, like I said, the flat lines or the deadlines. Are these self-imposed pressures? Is it external pressures? You've got a deadline to hit. You've got a specific date in history that you want to acknowledge. Is it something that you know that your time is ticking? Like I said, you've got a critical illness. There are lots of things. So have a look at the deadlines, and how much pressure they're putting on you. Looking at also the cost to investment benefit ratio. Now, I see cost and investment and debt very differently to quite a lot of people, because for me, if I'm not sleeping at night, it's costing me my sleep. And when someone says, what's the cost of coaching? It's like, it's not a cost of coaching. There isn't a cost to publishing. There isn't a cost to learning. It's an investment. The cost of the things it's costing you, like a lack of sleep, like a lack of knowledge, or a lack of success, or cost is taking something from you. When you're investing your time into the research and the books and the travel, and the time interviewing people, you've got to be really harsh and really particular on how you're going to be, and who you're spending your time with. Time is something we're never getting back. So we make sure that we value it, and the people who we're interviewing or that we're learning from value our time. Is that course of action, or that thread that we're following in our research, is it worth it? Is it actually going to add value to the end result, to the end manuscript? And why is it? Why is it not? Because it might be, like I said, follow the tangents, follow the idea stream, but again, keep coming back to your roadmap, the one that you're mapping out on the wall. Have a look, come back to your intention. Why am I writing this? Where's the alchemy in me writing this book? What is my alchemy? Where is my reader's transformation? How is this and this interview technique that I'm using? How is this research method that I'm using? How is it actually benefiting the book, my sources? How is your source sharing their story with you, finally giving them the air they need to breathe? Is this something that they have been holding on to for so long, that you are the first person that says, how are you? I'm listening. How much is that worth to them? How much is that worth to yourself? How much is that worth to others? Where is the alchemy and transformation? And again, looking at what coming in here, it says meaning making and perspectives. Looking at, if you are saying, okay, this is what happened, is it truth or is it fact? Because they're very different. I think I covered it last week or the week before. Because my truth about something that happened is not always somebody else's truth. But what are the facts? Again, looking at the dots that we can connect and the red threads, because if we learn about something, one of the things that people don't like is when they have their belief system challenged, because once that moment comes that they realize they've been lied to their whole life about something, and that red thread has been pulled, that then makes them question absolutely everything else that they believe in. It makes you question your soul on a whole other level of being. Because if you haven't been able to see through that lie, what other lies have you fallen through for? And if you haven't been a very good judge of character on that person, are you a good judge of character? And again, this is a very challenging space to go, which is why it's always good to have someone like myself coaching you through that process and holding space for you. And somebody who knows what it's like to go through those as well. So make sure that when you're pulling those threads, that the unraveling is for positive transformation. Again, it's making sure you've got a circle of trust, and that, again, that's where those legal contracts come in, or making sure that the people that you are sharing this story with, and what you're going to be doing, they're not going to go and do it themselves, or they're not going to go and pitch it to somebody else. It might be that the media contacts that you're using, the investigative journalists, do they know somebody else that they can put you in touch with? Is somebody overhearing your conversations in a cafe or a hotel? Who is in those spaces? Again, it's not just that circle of trust of people, it's that circle of trust in your environment. Are they introducing you to people who are dealing with modern day slavery? Are they introducing you to somebody who's looking at human trafficking or forced marriages? Like all of these different organizations and task forces are really, really important people, and they've got a lot of on the ground information, real live information. But again, are they playing to an agenda of that organization? Are they in it for the people? Are they in it for the public? Or are they in it for a pay rise or to get the next round of funding? for the research? Are they in it because they're following a government agenda? You've got to be able to understand and spot all of this and question it. Are you going to need to relocate? And if you do, is that going to present new traumas? Or is it actually, for example, I won't ever go back to Sheffield because I had a trauma there, and every time the thought of going back to Sheffield is just too much. So I won't go back to Sheffield. And it's just not good for me. And that's a shame. I have friends there, but again, if they're not willing to meet me outside of Sheffield, you know, we could meet in Derby, it's only an hour away. And if we can meet in Chesterfield, only 20 minutes away. Again, that circle of trust, those people seeing you, the ones that support you. And again, are you ending these generational cycles? Are you looking at what it is that you're writing, saying, this stops with me? No more. I am not prepared to have my family business or my family name or this this generation, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to do it. You know, you might be that you're exposing a company or a corporation for doing something, and they've been doing it for a long time. They've been poisoning the water, and so, you know, or they've been polluting the ground. And this is something that you're exposing, and you go, this stops with me. We're done with this, because the generational patterns and the traumas that's going to continue just by it stopping with me is something that you're choosing to create that change moving forward. The other thing that, and to finally wrap all of this up, is this happening? The thing that you've written about, or that you're writing about, and this is for not just for you, but also for your sources, is this happening to you, for you, or through you? Because if we live in the realm of existence where we're saying that this happened to us, we're putting ourselves and our victim and our sources into victim mode. We need to move away from that. And as best as possible, when we're interviewing people or we're talking with them casually, to get the information that we're looking for, whenever we look at it happened to me, let's try and move that, because one of the stages could be that this has happened for us. So they're actually coming from a victim mode to a learner mode. So, okay, so this happened for me so I could learn these lessons. But that, again, is an egoic place. So we want to, as a writer, we're alchemizing this so it happens through us. So this happened, I'm alchemizing it, and I'm passing it on for future generations to learn from, and for other people to learn from. So it's taking it through that to, for, and through process. When you've done your first draft, sit with your manuscript. Was it enough research? Are you happy with what you've written? Do you need to do more research? Sit with it while it goes to the editor, and reflect on that, because once you get the edits back and you've made your notes on how you feel that you've done, and the editor has then come back to you and says, well, you might not want to write it this way, and you go, actually, no, I really do want to write it that way. That reflection time, once you've written your manuscript, combined with your editor's process, that's gold. Like, editors are, I mean, I pay for editors because they make my writing so much better. They pick up on things and they give perspectives like nothing else. And we cannot edit our own work. And anyone who says that they can edit their own work, they're lying to themselves. Even if they're an editor, they should know that they cannot edit their own work. And then go back and do your rewrites. And you never, trust me on this, but you're never ever going to be happy, fully happy with the end results. You're always going to be, oh, I wish I'd have written that. Oh, maybe I should have done. Get out of the analysis paralysis. When your editor is processing and editing, and you come together and you do those rewrites, know when to stop, and then get onto your final draft. And if there are any amendments following the book being published, you can always go back and do a version 2, a second edition, as I'm doing with Crossing the Line. I'm working on Crossing the Line at the moment, and I had a lot of readers come back and say, well, actually, what about this? What happened then? And so we're now splitting Crossing the Line into 2 books so that I can actually answer the questions of my readers, because they wanted more information. So again, there's always a second edition. So I hope that I know it's been a lot. There's a lot to process. And I'm hoping that I'm still on time. So I am, just checked. So those of you who are here with me today, if you've got questions, please do bring them on. I haven't checked them because I've just been on such a mission to get through this. So I really hope that that's made sense. Those of you who are on YouTube on the catch up, please do send your questions through underneath and we'll get those done. I'm now going to take you to another, I don't want to be doing that. I need to stop sharing that, come back and change over to a different screen so that, because I'm actually, those of you who are wanting to have a 45-minute, I call it a service call, because I was just on a call with a chap and he was really worried that it was a sales call. And I was like, no, it's not a sales call, because I want to be of service. My goal is to support 1 million authors, 1 million writers, so that we can impact 1 million readers. And I can only do that by being of service to you all. This is one of the reasons why I do these sessions. So if any of you would like to book 45 minutes with me, I've freed up some of my tasks and automated a few others. So I have a few more scheduled appointments available. So if you want to spend 45 minutes with me asking me deeper questions about what it is and how I can help you, I can learn about what it is you're writing about, pass you on to a different publisher, ask around, because your book might not be something that is on brand for me. It might not be something I can help with, but I know people who can. I'm part of the Independent Publishers Guild and the Society of Authors, the Authors Guild. So I've got, you know, and the RSA and a few others. So I've got a network of people that I can call on if you need any help. There's also, I don't know if you can see this, there is also the 7-week author course, which is my signature self-study course. And it is there to take you through all of the different aspects of writing a book. So it's about mastering the art of book writing. And that includes, you know, researching and getting out of your own head, your vision creation, showing you where your money is, whether that's from funding, whether that's from side hustles, whether it's part-time work, but also you being open to receiving it and dealing with your money story. Because a lot of authors have a real big issue with a money story. Then it's about living and loving your life your way. If you click on these little red drops, it does actually go into more detail, I should say that. And then looking at the environment, are you going to publish logistics? Are you going to look at, you know, large runs? Are you storing them in distribution warehouses? But also the environment in your head, in your heart, your wardrobe, your home, and your friendship circles. And then looking at what's beyond the money, what's beyond the royalties. So we cover that in the module 6. We look at awards and accolades, that kind of thing. And then what's next for you once you've written the book? What's next for you? And then you get to meet lovely Carmel, who worked with me on her book Unlocked. She's absolutely, I call her my doyenne. She's so graceful and elegant, and you can really feel it in her book. So there you go. You can go and have a look at that. That's a 7-week author course. And when it's shared on YouTube and emailed to those of you who signed up for these email reminders, all the links and everything will be in there. And I'm more than happy, like I said, to be of service. My goal is to support 1 million authors around the world. So please help me do that. So if you've got any questions, please do send them through. Those of you who have joined me today, thank you so very much. Do come up on the screen if you're wanting to. If not, then I can wrap this up now and we can stop sharing. I see Lonica has just come on board. So do you want to take yourself off mute, Lonica?
Oh, yes, I just want to say goodbye. Thank you.
You're very welcome. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm not sure if it is for me really, because I'm not really looking into trauma as such. Okay, I'm writing about a sensitive subject, but it's not trauma like human trafficking or sexual assault or things like that. So
Trauma can be anything. It could be
Yeah,
being birthed in the like a way we're birthed in the losing a dog. Trauma is so very, very different. I've used some quite extreme examples in this.
mm,
But yeah, trauma can be any for anybody. It could be anything.
okay.
Yeah. Don't invalidate it, or feel that there's that comparison. Again, some of the things that I mentioned, I'm trying to cover all aspects, and I know that what I write about, so I'm writing from all of those. So, but there's the 7-week author course that I offer and that 45-minute session. They are for all authors, whether they're writing fiction or non-fiction, whether they're right, whatever their subject. One chap has joined me for science fiction, which I was just fascinated by. Sam, absolutely can't wait for his book to go out on the market. But yeah, is there any other questions or any observations that you'd like to mention?
Um, no, not at the moment. No, thanks.
You're very welcome. Well, if there
Mm,
is, just do let me know. Do get in contact, and it's always a pleasure to be able to be of service. Okay,
thank you.
you're very welcome. Thank you. Um, So we're going to start recording now, unless Joanne has got some questions. And like I said, if you've got any questions, and like Lonica, she's just raised a very good point there that, when I talk about trauma or sensitive subject, we could be talking about something, I know, whether it's vaccination, whether it's an education system, we could be talking about maybe gender, we could be talking about, disabilities. There are lots of different things which are sensitive subjects. I've mentioned some of the harsher ones today. It could be something, the way you speak to your parents, or the discipline of in schools. So please do not think that because the subjects that I've been writing about and discussing, that it invalidates or makes yours less so or more so than others. We all are where we're at, and I'm here to be of service in the best possible way. We are coming up to the top of the hour, so I'm going to wrap up now. Like I said, all the links are going to be below, and if I can be of service to you, please do let me know. Have a great day and rest of the week, and I shall see you for next week. Ciao for now.